This is a photo of me when I was 19 years old. But much more importantly, however, that photo is from my first day at work when I had this mindset that all I need to do is work really hard to eventually make it in life. But now, a decade later, however, I know that it takes a little bit more than that. So today I thought it would be quite interesting to walk you through exactly what I plan to do to become a millionaire by 32. Everything I'll be sharing has come through my own personal experience on what has worked and what hasn't, tips I've gained from reading books of the biggest money and business experts in the world, and psychological based evidence around the human brain. Later in this video, I'll also talk about how one of these made me $40,000 better off literally within 1 hour. So the first thing I'm going to do is focus on my all-weather portfolio. This is based on the fact that most people earn wages, but you'll never get wealthy working for wages because wages grow linearly. That is, the amount you earn is directly related to the amount of time you work. On top of that, just relying on wages is risky because the moment you decide to quit or get fired, that income stream stops coming in. So what I realized over the past few years is to also focus on building up passive income streams, which have the potential to grow non-linearly because they don't require you trading your time for money. As soon as you make one passive income stream on autopilot and let it run, it gives you time to focus on others and grow your income more and more because the ones that are on autopilot are continuing to bring in money for you without you needing to even devote any more time to it. The second thing I'll be doing is thinking in terms of first principles. I first came across this concept in an interview with Elon Musk, and the idea of it is that just because things have always been done a certain way, that doesn't mean it's the best way and that it's the right way, and we shouldn't be afraid to question the status quo. When someone tells me something isn't possible, I now have this immediate knee-jerk reaction to prove to them why it is possible. I used to host social events, and as part of the marketing for one of the events I organized, I told my business partner at the time that we should make really cool physical invites and one that people want to upload and put on social media, and we could get free marketing from that. And I remember him saying at the time, oh, we can't do that because of this and because of that, and we've always done it like this, so it doesn't make sense to change it now, it'll just take too long. And I feel like this subtle messaging is something that I faced so many times in different areas of my life, and it's just a way of saying stick to the blueprint, stick to the convention. And it's these moments where you've just got to have some sort of resistance, turn to the side and say, no, I'm just going to explore it this way. One person thought they could build a rocket and send it to Mars. That person is Elon Musk. Someone else thought they could bend a piece of aluminium and get it to fly through the air. That was the Wright brothers. In any concept, you can't get extraordinary results from ordinary actions. The world doesn't offer outsized returns for people and brands that just serve up more of the same. The third thing I'm going to be doing to get to that $1 million mark is utilizing other people's strengths. And this is the one that saved me that $40,000 within 1 hour. There is a saying that is, if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I used to always think I could figure things out myself and that I can save money just by doing things on my own. Now I realize that different people have completely different, unique strengths and skills, and that is essentially how they make a living. So I purchased a property under a company structure, and I needed to move it into another company, and I realized to do this, I would need to pay over $40,000 in different forms of taxes. If you live in the UK, you know what that is. I tried to Google frantically why I needed to pay this, if there were examples where other people didn't pay it, and if there was a way around this. I then spoke to my friend who told me, why don't you just speak to a tax advisor? That's what they're there for. So I forked out what killed me at the time, $200 to speak to this tax specialist. And they gave me a completely legal, tax-efficient strategy, which saved me from paying that $40,000. Had I not done that, I would have just ended up paying that money and not knowing any better. So in a world where hard work is no longer a competitive advantage, because let's face it, everyone works hard, the competitive advantage is actually in thinking expansively and connecting with the right people. The fourth thing I'm going to keep in mind until I get to my goal is that concept of the slight edge. This is based on the book The Slight Edge, written by motivational speaker Jeff Oslin. And according to Jeff, success and failure are both a result of the slight edge. And that's the idea that simple little things that we choose to do or choose not to do on a daily basis have a compounding effect on who we ultimately become. So I like to use the penny compounding parable here. And that is that there are two people who are given the choice to either get $1 million at the beginning of next month. That's it, a flat, straight check of $1 million. Here you go. Or choose to receive 1 penny at the beginning of next month, but that penny doubles every single day for the next 30 days. The person who chooses to go with that flat $1 million mark got that $1 million, great. But the person who chose to go with the penny that doubled every single day ended up with $5.3 million. If you take this example and stretch it into a longer time frame, that is essentially how compounding in our life works. Those small little decisions that you make and small little things you choose to do or don't do every day matter because they have long-term ramifications and they will eventually show up. I now try to remind myself that whatever's uncomfortable now will become comfortable later. Just keep going and trust the process of compounding. Number 5, lean into your money-making superpower. So I saw another YouTuber earlier talk about this and I really loved the way he described it. He talks about how everyone has this money-making superpower to lean into, but most people don't tap into it. They don't understand it or they haven't yet figured it out, but everyone does have it. And the way I kind of see this and have interpreted it is that we all need to lean into our most valuable strengths, and these strengths can come from our upbringing, our parents and what we've surrounded with and the knowledge we've absorbed over the years. It can come through our skill set, the skills that we've learned just through doing, through our day job and what we've taught ourselves, or it can come through our passions and interests and our natural talent. But through one of these avenues, you can unlock your money-making superpower that you can lean into. And the way I see it is I'm still exploring a number of different things and trying out new things. I'm starting a YouTube channel, for example. That's something new that I'm doing, but by doing this, I'm going to lean into my strengths and eventually I'll hone into my money-making superpower. Number 6 is live below your means. It's really easy to spend everything you earn and live paycheck to paycheck. As you earn more, you want a bigger house, you want a nicer car, your lifestyle choices inflate as your paycheck inflates. And when I first started working, I spent everything I earned and every single bonus went towards a material item which I couldn't even care about 2 months later. And then I realized that if I keep doing this, I'm going to get to 35, having worked for 15 plus years and have nothing to really show for it. So I massively changed my spending habits and now spend way below my means. I even have a specific video on that. I do agree that your teenage years and your early 20s are when you want to be living your life to the max. I wouldn't really be worrying about saving the $5, $10 at this age, but then later there comes to a time where you want to be making some sacrifices in the short term and holding off on buying some things now with the aim to then reinstate those things back into your life later when the trade-off isn't so big. So for example, I wanted to buy a new car for a while. I ran the numbers and I actually thought, okay, I barely drive. I work full time and I travel to and from work on the train. And when I do go out in the evenings or on the weekend, I just grab an Uber. And so the decision to sell my last car and wait till I buy my new one has saved me a ridiculous amount of money. I save money on insurance, on maintenance, on not having a finance or a lease, and not to mention the money that I would have lost in depreciation. So I'm using that money now to invest in assets instead, to build a lifestyle that I want, and then eventually these assets and the cash flow coming in from those assets will pay for all the nice luxury things later on. Those are the things I'm doing. If you like this video, I've made another one on my journey so far and what I will be doing going forward. I'll link that here. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in my next video.